The Galactic Council chamber fell silent the moment the door slid open. Every delegate present, Vorkai from the crystalline worlds of Sector 9, the ancient Mithrans with their 6 trembling limbs, even the towering war priests of the Drakthal Empire, turned their collective gaze toward the 2 humans who walked through the entrance without ceremony, without escort, and without fear. Jack moved first. He was not an impressive specimen by most galactic standards. Medium height, broad shoulders, a jaw that looked like it had been carved from something stubborn. Behind him walked Emma, her dark eyes sweeping the chamber with the calm precision of someone cataloging threats and dismissing them one by one. Between them, secured inside a reinforced transparasteel container no larger than a travel case, something moved. Something scratched. Something hissed. High Ambassador Vorkai rose from his ceremonial throne, his crystalline body refracting the chamber lights into nervous rainbows across the walls. "Delegate Jack of the Human Confederacy," he announced, his translator perfectly rendering the words in every species' tongue simultaneously. "You have been summoned before the Galactic Council to answer for the incident on Sector 12's neutral trading moon. 17 ships. 17 allied ships. Disabled." Jack stopped walking. He looked up at Vorkai, then at the semicircle of 49 alien council members staring down at him from their elevated platforms, and he nodded once, slow and easy, like a man who had nowhere better to be. "Yeah," he said. "About that." Emma set the container down on the council floor. The scratching intensified. It had started 3 weeks earlier, when the Drakthal Empire, never ones for patience or diplomacy, had decided that the neutral trading moon of Valaxis 7 was simply too profitable to remain neutral. They had parked a blockade of 17 warships around it, declared it a zone of protective custody, and begun taxing every vessel that passed through at rates that could only be described as piracy in expensive armor. The council had filed objections, strongly worded ones. The Drakthal had ignored them. The council had sent mediators. The Drakthal had sent the mediators back, disassembled. The council had then made the mistake of turning to the Human Confederacy's newly appointed trade delegates, Jack and Emma, and asking them, casually, almost as an afterthought, if they had any ideas. Jack had smiled. Emma had opened her personal cargo manifest. "You brought a creature onto this station?" Vorkai's voice cracked with something that, in his species, passed for horror. "A biological creature? Onto the council floor?" "Relax," Jack said. "She's in a case." "She?" The Mithrin elder Sora Thub Many Winters leaned forward on 6 trembling limbs. "You designate it by gender? You have bonded with this thing." "This thing," Emma said, in the voice she reserved for correcting people who were about to embarrass themselves, "is a Malivera capensis, a honey badger, from Earth." She paused. "She's called Duchess." The scratching stopped. The hissing started. Every alien in the room instinctively leaned back. The Drakthal battle commander Graxol had laughed when he first received intelligence reports about the humans' plan. He had laughed in the booming, teeth-filled way of his people, which sounded like boulders colliding in a gravel quarry. Then the honey badger had gotten loose in his flagship's engine corridor. The laughter had stopped within approximately 4 minutes. Graxol's flagship was the Eternal Dominion, 3 kilometers of reinforced battle plate, plasma cannons, and the terrified screams of 600 Drakthal warriors who had fought in a dozen wars and conquered 40 worlds. They had faced the vacuum of space. They had survived plasma storms. They had looked into the eyes of Vorkai's kind, who could project psychic terror directly into the brain, and had laughed. They had not been prepared for something that weighed 11 kilograms, moved like liquid fury, and absolutely did not care that it was outnumbered 600 to 1. Duchess had disabled the flagship's primary engine coupling in 11 minutes. Not through any clever sabotage, not through tools or technology. She had simply decided that the large glowing component that smelled interesting needed to come apart, and she had made it happen with her claws, her teeth, and what could only be described as a deeply personal vendetta against the concept of machinery. When Drakthal soldiers tried to stop her, she redirected her vendetta toward them. When they sealed blast doors between themselves and her, she found the maintenance crawlways. When they tried electrified deterrents, the same deterrents designed to stop their own apex predators, she shook them off, looked at the source of the electricity with an expression that the ship's cameras recorded for posterity, and then went after the power coupling next. 16 other ships in the blockade received similar visitors. Jack and Emma had spent those 3 days sitting calmly in a shuttle outside the blockade's perimeter, drinking coffee, and monitoring 16 separate sensor feeds. Duchess is in the Iron Proclamation's waste processing bay, Emma had noted on day 2, scrolling through her datapad with the focused attention of a general reviewing battlefield maps. Jack had said. She seems annoyed. She's always annoyed. Fair. By the time the Drakthal Admiral had broadcast his unconditional withdrawal, voice shaking, translator working overtime to communicate the specific flavor of traumatized dignity in his words, all 17 ships had powered down their weapons and begun the long, quiet journey back to Drakthal space. Several had structural damage. One had lost all 4 of its secondary cooling systems. 2 had simply broadcast the universal distress signal and refused to elaborate further. Not a single human life had been risked. Not a single council ship had been deployed. Valaxis 7 was free. You weaponized an animal, High Commander Vyrath of the Mithran fleet said, his voice carrying the particular tone of someone who had just realized all their military doctrine needed revising. A small animal. Against a war fleet. We didn't weaponize her, Jack said. She does what she does. We just gave her transportation. And a target, Emma added helpfully. And a target, Jack agreed. The Drakthal filed 49 formal complaints, Vorkai said, consulting his data scroll with an expression that, for a crystalline being, communicated profound distress. 49. In 3 days. They described. He paused and seemed to be choosing his words with unusual care. They described psychological damage to their crews. She is very intense, Emma acknowledged. They said she smiled at them. She does that, Jack said. Don't read into it. From inside the transparasteel container, Duchess made a sound that no galactic translator had ever successfully rendered into any known language. It bypassed translation entirely and went directly to the part of every species' brain that was responsible for the very old, very quiet voice that said, move. Every member of the Galactic Council moved, marginally, involuntarily, and in the direction away from the sound. High Ambassador Vorkai looked down at the 2 humans standing calmly on the council floor, next to a case containing 11 kilograms of absolute conviction, and he understood, perhaps for the first time in his 300-year career, something important about humanity. They did not produce apex predators despite surviving on a dangerous world. They had survived a dangerous world because they had looked at apex predators, shrugged, and figured out how to make friends with them. The charges against the Human Confederacy, he said slowly, are formally withdrawn. He straightened his crystalline form to its full height, which suddenly felt less impressive than it usually did. The Council thanks you for your creative contribution to galactic peacekeeping. Happy to help, Jack said. Emma picked up Duchess's case. From within it came another sound, lower this time, almost satisfied. Almost. As the 2 humans walked back toward the chamber doors, the 49 most powerful alien leaders in the known galaxy sat in complete silence and watched them go. No one spoke until the doors had closed entirely. Then Sorath of Many Winters said, very quietly, what everyone was thinking. We should be extremely careful never to annoy them. General agreement was immediate, unanimous, and, for the first time in Council history, required no vote at all. Outside, in the corridor, Jack looked at Emma. Think they'll behave? Emma considered. Duchess made a sound in her case. For a while, Emma said. Good enough, Jack replied. They walked on. Behind the closed doors of the most powerful governing body in the galaxy, 49 alien delegates quietly began revising their threat assessments of humanity, not upward, exactly, but sideways, into a category that hadn't previously existed. The category was simply labeled different, and underneath it, in smaller text, someone had already added, do not provoke, do not corner, do not, under any circumstances, ask about the animal.